So we are recording. Once we're finished today, it'll probably be tomorrow. It takes a little while for everything to kind of finalize with the transcript and everything else that gets added to it. So probably tomorrow, Aaron, I'll send you a link to the recording, and then you can share that out with everyone, however you guys do that. So for all the participants today, there will be a recording of this going out to you soon. So don't worry if you miss anything too much. We got you taken care of. Again, I have 3 of my teammates, and then Brian Dugan is also on, our sales rep for your district. If you have any questions today, feel free to drop those into the chat. One of my teammates will help you out. I know Erin has a pretty good working knowledge just from conversations we've had as well. And she can easily help you out with some of if you have any Yakima questions for that as well. If we get a lot of the same question, one of my teammates will probably stop me and we'll talk about it instead of just having to answer through the chat, because I know that can get a little crazy following the chat. In the calendar invite, I know Aaron dropped a document there that we will talk about today. Let me get rid of a few of these documents. Sorry, I thought I had done this already. There we go. So that is this document here. It is a reading grouping document. We will talk about that today as we go over your data, or as we go over the data and talk about how to use the data. This document, I think, helps out. I've heard good things from some of the customers I've used it with. I've kind of refined it over the last couple of years. So we'll go through this. I will drop this in the chat right now, just so if you didn't have a chance to get that off of the calendar invite, you can grab it off of the chat here. So that is going through. Looks like it just sent successfully from my end. So if you want to grab that here as well, it is a Word document, so you can type into it as you need to. All right, let us get started. So today we're going to just spend our time talking about using iStation data to create your small groups for intervention and then find resources to use with those students. Are you guys getting back to a more hybrid model, or are you guys mostly remote right now? I can't remember. Everyone's so different.
We're still mostly remote, but we'll be bringing more of our students back through small group tutoring.
Okay, excellent. So most of or all of our resources, they're all PDFs, so they can all be uploaded to any sharing platforms you're using with those students. In that way, that you can screen share them and work through those with some of your groups that are remote if you need to do that as well. So we can certainly address that as we work through today. But again, we're just going to be mainly looking at some reports today, the kind of main reports you'll want to use to help create your small groups and then find resources with those students. So I'm just going to stay in the website today. I'll show you a couple things in the student application that students are able to work with, or able to see as far as their data goes. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'll be working out of a demo classroom today, just since we're representing multiple schools across the district. I'm going to use just kind of anonymous data, so we're not looking at anybody's data. So as a teacher, let me open my reading document back up, sorry, so that I have it open. So as a teacher, I'm just going to log in and go into my classroom tab up here at the top. So one of the things we do at iStation is we want to try to keep everything as efficient and quick for you guys as possible. So all the reports we're going to talk about today live right here in your classroom, right? So you can just go into your classroom and you can really just live in this report right here. You can ignore this performance scale override thing. That's just something that's set on my end. You guys are using the 5 levels, I believe, right? Yes. So that just, I had to set mine that way so we can see different things with the 5 levels. Otherwise, this would all be in tiers. So ignore that blue stripe that you see on my screen. You won't see it on yours. So if I'm reading only, if I'm only teaching the English reading side, when I go into my classroom, remember, I'm going to see my students listed out here below. I'll see their ISIP status for the month, so I'll be able to see really quickly if they have completed their assessment or not, and I'll be able to see which level they are overall, right here where the little incomplete turns from gray to the color of the level they are. So that's a really quick way just to see where everybody's at. I can even filter up here by different levels, or I can filter to see who has not completed their assessment this month. So just a really quick way to see who has not finished their assessment and who has and what level they are. And then of course, this last column here, we can see the student's activity for this week. And that will count anytime they're logged in and working in the program. So if they're just on that main menu, it's not going, that time's not going to show up here. But if they're taking an assessment, or they're working in the instruction, or they're working on assignments or anything like that, you will see that reflected here as well, okay? For my schools and my teachers who have bilingual students, or you've got both the English and the Spanish assessment that's being given to your students, when you log into your classroom, you can go over here and check this box that says show multiple products. And then you can add your iStation Espanol toggle right here. So now you can see both the English and the Spanish assessment on the same page, okay? So I love that you can see that, because you can kind of see how the students are doing in both of those. You can really quickly see their usage for each of those different products. So if they log in and work on the Spanish side of things, you'll see that reflected down here on this lower area. And if they're working on the English side of things, you will see that reflected up here on that top level. All right. So once we see that all of our students have completed their assessment, now we want to start creating small groups, right, to address the needs of those students, or we want to look at our data. So the first report that I always like to use is called the ISIP summary report. And that's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, just a summary of how we're doing on the assessment. But I use this report for so much more than that. And we'll walk through that right now. So in your classroom, if you scroll down here to the left, you'll see this little about area. Below that, you'll see related reports. For my schools who just have English, you'll just see this top piece right here for the reading, for English reading. If you have both assessments, you will see both the Espanol down here right below that as well. The reports for each of these work exactly the same. I'll be working through the reading just because I know what all of it says, right? The English reading. This document that we have here, you can use this for either of the products, whether you're using English or Spanish. You can use this for either of those, because all the different things you're going to find are the same in each of those different reports. So first, when I'm using ISIP summary, I'm just going to click into that report. Now we have demo data here. So this report is always going to run for the current calendar month, right? So if you ran this today, you would see January. February 1st or February 2nd, when you run this, you would see February 2021 right up here, okay? One neat thing about this report is you can go back in time on this report. So if it's, May, and I want to look back and see what my class looked like in January, I could go up here to edit report, go to the reporting period right here, and then change this back to January. Then I'm going to run this report again. And now I'm going back and looking at that January time frame, okay? So you can always edit this report to go backwards in time if you ever feel like you need to. The very top of this report, you're going to see a bar graph like we see here. You'll see their overall score over here to the left. And then to the right, you're going to see a bar for each of the different subtests that they took for this assessment on their grade level. Each of these bars, so here we have comprehension, vocabulary, spelling, text fluency. Each of these bars will show you the percentage of your class at each level for each of these subtests, okay? So I can kind of really quickly see the distribution of my class amongst those levels with this report. So I can see, do we have a subtest where we have a lot of level 1s or level 2s? Right? If we have a lot of level 1s and level 2s in our class, then especially at this point in the year, I need to start thinking about what adjustments I can make when I'm teaching that skill to help those students, right? So like, for example, if we had like here, we've got what 31% of our students are level 2 or level 1 for vocabulary. Let's say this was like 70%, right? In January, if I have 70% of my students who are level 2 or level 1, then I feel like in my mind, there's got to be some disconnect between what I'm teaching them and what they're getting, right? Because if most of my students are below level, then I'm not reaching them the way I would like to. So in that case, I want to start looking at what am I doing in the classroom for these vocabulary skills? How am I teaching this? What resources am I using? I want to make some adjustments in that area to help reach more of my students. Okay. So that's just going to be that first kind of line of defense that I'm going to use to help my students out. When I'm doing my whole group instruction, where can I make adjustments to improve how my students are receiving that information? Right. Once I've determined that, I like to even look at where we're doing really well, right? So if we have the majority of our students in spelling are doing really well, I like to tell my students that as well. I don't like to kind of always give them bad news. I like to kind of pump them up, right? Hey guys, we're doing really well in spelling this month. You guys are rocking it. That's really great. That doesn't mean I'm doing a pizza party every month or ice cream every month. High fives, just pump them up, whatever it is. I like to give them good news to get them feeling that success, right? Because as kids feel that success, and even as adults, when you feel that success, you want more of it. You work harder to receive that success, right? Some of that extrinsic becomes intrinsic. So that's a really good thing to do as well. Once I've kind of made my decisions around my whole group instruction, I can scroll down and now I'm going to see the individual data for that assessment for my whole class. Okay. Your students are going to be in order from the lowest overall score down to your highest overall score. Okay. So we're always going to put those students who are most in need at the top of this report. This is a second grade class, so I can see their score and level overall. Then if I go over here, these are those grade level subtests they took. I see a score and level for each of those as well. Now, remember, we talked about this last time, I believe. For second and third grade, because we're computer adaptive, if you have students who are struggling, they can drop down and see these first grade subtests like you see right here, right? So I can see that these two students, they were scoring low enough that the system said, okay, let's go down and see if they have any issues with letter knowledge or phonemic awareness or alphabetic decoding. So that's why you see a score here. The reason you don't see a level is because second grade students have never been normed for those first grade subtests. So we don't have levels for them on those off grade level subtests. But you do get a score, and we'll look at student summary handout or really even skill growth details, and you'll be able to see for these kind of how they compare to a first grader who would have scored in this month. So we'll make sure we take a look at that today. But just know that if you see these extra subtests, they're struggling, right? So one of the first things I like to do down here is I want to make sure everything makes sense, right? If I have students that are showing up as level 1, are those students that I expect to show up as level 1, right? I've worked with teachers where we look at this and the teacher is like, wait a minute, why is that student way up here with level 1? That kid should never be level 1. They should always be level 4 or 5 at least, right? They're one of the smartest kids in the class. What's going on when that happens, right? So if I see data that doesn't make sense, or if I look at this and decide, you know what, this does make sense. These students who are up here in these low levels, that's who I expect to see there. I want to go see either why the data doesn't make sense, or I wanted to see what they're doing on the assessment. So over here to the left, you'll notice next to their name, there's a little blue plus sign next to everybody's name. That blue plus sign tells me I can drill deeper into the data. So I'm just going to choose Sayuri here. We'll click on the blue plus sign here, and we're going to drill down into her data. So I click on the blue plus sign. That will take you to the student history report for that student. This will just be every time that student has taken an assessment this school year. you'll just see them stacked chronologically like we see here. So since it's January, we'll just go to the January assessment right here. You can see the month. Here's the date that it was actually taken. Scheduled monthly just means it's that automatic assessment that happens at the beginning of each month. I can see the level and score for each subtest over here, okay? You'll notice over here to the left, there are blue plus signs for each of these subtests. I just always start with the first one so I can kind of work my way through. So this is vocabulary. I'm going to click on the blue plus sign here. That will bring me into the session summary activity details. So this first box here just shows you every session a student has done. A session is just from when they log in to when they log out. That counts as a session. You'll see date and time, and you'll see how long they were logged in as well right here. If you see any symbols over here to the right, here's a legend that tells you what each of those are. So like excessive idle time, that means they sat there for at least 2 minutes and did not interact with the program. We start counting idle time at that point until they interact with the program again. Excessive aborts means they're hitting the stop sign a lot and getting out of whatever they're in. The blue just tells me that they're not at school, they were working at home or outside of the school's IP range. So just some of those things that can help. This will just kind of help you with that. If we scroll down, I can see right here this January 9th is grayed out because that's the one we selected from the student history report. Scroll down to the left, you will see the session activity details. So this is just every activity they did within that session, right? So here I can see, here's their vocabulary subtest. Got 10 out of 18 correct. There's letter knowledge. I can see all the different subtests they did as they worked down right here, okay? Vocabulary has been selected. If I go over here to the right, now we're gonna see, here are the questions that were asked, right? So I can see there's the question. Here are the answer choices that were provided. The correct answer gets the check mark. This response column is the answer choice the student chose. The score, you get a 1 for a correct answer, 0 for a correct answer, 0 for an incorrect answer, and then I can see how long it took them to choose an answer, okay? So this can be really powerful. If I go in here and I look at this and I see a bunch of wrong answers with 1 second or less than 1 second, what do I know they're doing? They're just clicking as fast as they can to be done, right? Maybe they had a bad morning, they got in trouble on the way to school, they're just not in the mood for it, whatever it is, they're just ready to be done. They're trying to get done as quickly as possible, okay? I can see, if I see like timeout on the response column, let's see if we have any of them here. I don't think we will. Nope. If you see the word timeout, it'll be in italics. That tells me they did not answer the question and it moved on and counted it wrong, okay? So I've seen, I worked with a 4th grade teacher once where on the spelling assessment, it was kind of that same thing. Hey, this student there's no way this child should be this low on his spelling subtest. When we went in there, it was a 4th grade student, so they actually typed the words into the program. He had just put the letter H for every single question, right? Spell the word, moon, H. Spell the word, whatever it was, H, like all the way down. So the teacher can see that in the data. So now, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with him when he gets to school tomorrow because we gotta do it nice or do it twice. So I can use that as proof of why I might need to do an on-demand assessment for certain subtests, right? Because this child just answered in less than 1 second all the way down. They weren't even paying attention, just clicking, or they didn't answer most of the questions, right? So this can be a really good way of just investigating what's going on, okay? I can even see down here, right? So we get into text fluency payoff, right? I can see ISIP early reading. It'll say, it'll be labeled with whichever assessment they're taking, whether it's early or advanced, or lectura temprana or lectura avanzada, that will be labeled with ISIP. That tells me that's the assessment. Once they finish that, you'll see control room, and then now they will go into the cycles of instruction. So even when they're working through the cycles of instruction, I can see what they're doing here as well. Okay. So this can be a really powerful area for you guys when you are um, investigating why data may not make sense, or just getting an idea of, if we're looking at spelling, what spelling patterns are they missing, right? I can start to gauge that here as well, because here's the word that they need to spell and what did they end up spelling right here, okay? So super powerful right here. I'm going to use my back button on my browser just to go back out to the main report. So I'd love to give you about 4 or 5 minutes. I know we don't have a whole lot of time today, so we'll kind of keep this a little bit short. Let's just do like 3 or 4 minutes. I just want you to go in, log in if you can. If you want to minimize Zoom, log in, click into your classroom. And then I want you to scroll down and click into your ISIP summary and just take a look at it. Take a look at your bar graph, scroll down, take a look at your students that you see down here. You don't need to click into the plus sign, just remember it's there. But I just want to get you comfortable getting to that. And then once we do that in about 3 or 4 minutes, then we'll talk about using this report to start creating our small groups. Okay, sound good? All right, and again, if you have any questions while we're doing this, just drop those into the chat. So we'll just start that now. We'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes. All right, so if you want, I think you can give a thumbs up on your camera somehow. If you feel comfortable getting to that report, you think it's a good report to use, if you just want to give me a thumbs up on your little screen there, you can give me a physical thumbs up or the digital thumbs up, whichever one works best for you. Cool. So I really like that report. I think it's a lot quicker than what it took us to go through that, right? Just kind of looking at it and making those decisions. So let's talk about how to use this report to start creating your small groups. So I think we talked last time about how when they take their assessment, they get a score, they get their level, and then they get a percentile as well, right? That percentile is by far my favorite piece of data to use to create small groups. All of our subtests, all of our overall scores, they've been nationally normed against all the students who use iStation across the country. We re-norm kind of every 3 or 4 years. It's pretty much industry standard. So we try to keep them as accurate as possible for you guys at all times. So I like to use the percentile to create my small groups, right? So if I pull up my grouping document, and this is just a way to help you think through how I'm going to group my students. So it's kind of step by step. Hopefully it's pretty easy to follow. So let's just take a look at what it says. Use ISIP summary to determine a skill to focus on for intervention. Click on the bar for the chosen skill and use the percentile to group students. Students with similar percentiles can be grouped together. Keep in mind where students' needs are within the hierarchy of reading when deciding on how to group them, okay? So I might have students who are struggling in one area, right? Maybe they're doing great in vocabulary, spelling, but comprehension is the one area they're struggling. Then that's where I need to focus my energy with that student is, comprehension. If I have a student who's struggling across the board, right? Comprehension, vocabulary, spelling, text fluency, kind of everything. That's when I want to start thinking about that hierarchy of reading. If they're struggling everywhere, I don't want to start in comprehension, right? Because that's not going to help those other skills as much. Whereas if I start with vocabulary or if I start with spelling, that's all going to work up to help comprehension, right? It's kind of like I want to make sure I stabilize the foundation of my house before I start adding a second floor onto it. So think about that hierarchy of reading when you are thinking about where you're going to provide your intervention. So ISIP summary, we're already in ISIP summary, so that's great. So I'm going to look at my bars up here, and I can have a variety of reasons for what I choose. Maybe as a campus, we're historically low in a certain area, so we're going to focus on that. Maybe as a district, we have some mandates of we need to really focus on some vocabulary because on state testing, we're showing to be low in that area, right? It can be a lot of different reasons, or it could be I've got a lot of kids who are struggling with spelling. Let me go see who needs to work on that, right? So whichever of these skills I choose on my document here, I'm going to just put vocabulary because I love vocabulary. So I'm going to put vocabulary right here on my ISIP skill box. So now I always know what I'm working on, right? So I'm going to click on this bar for vocabulary, and that's going to open up, excuse me, I'm going to go back to January now. So that's going to open up skill growth, okay? So there's a couple of cool things about this report. I can see as a class how we're growing over time. And right now I'm looking at just the vocabulary subtest, okay? So I can see how we're growing over time, but what I do really want to come here for is when I scroll down, I can see my January month right here. If this is live data, February and March would be blank because we haven't done anything there yet. I can see their ability index, which is their score on vocabulary. Does that tell us a whole lot? No, by itself, it really doesn't, right? Like 244, if it wasn't for this other data out here, I wouldn't know really what that meant, okay? So the score is there, I can see their level, and then right here is the important column to me, the percentile rank. This is the percentile on the vocabulary subtest, right? So now as I'm looking at this, I can start to group my students based on percentile. I like to choose students whose percentile are close together. Sometimes I'll have kids group like really close together. Like I might have 2 or 3 kids with the same percentile, and then 1 or 2 kids where they're like a couple percentiles away. Some of my groups might get stretched out a little bit more. Maybe it might be like a 6 or 8 percentile range, kind of as you get higher up into those percentiles. So as I'm looking at this data right here, and as I'm looking at my document back here, right? So now I'm looking at percentile. I can skip down here, document the grouping data in the table below from ISIP summary. That's where we're at right now. So I can look at that. I have a place for their names. I put 6 names in the group. When I taught, I was usually comfortable with 4 or 5. Some of you, I'm sure, are better teachers than I ever dreamed about being. So you might be able to handle 6. So I gave you a 6th person there as well. When I have the lower groups, I may want to keep it to 4, right? As we get a little bit more advanced, I may kind of I can add more kids to that. But from ISIP summary, I can see I'm going to do the score or the ability index from ISIP summary, and I'm going to get percentile from ISIP summary as well. So when I'm looking at this data, so if I'm looking at this, I've got an 8th percentile right here. Here's an 11th percentile. There's an 18th right here. That's probably a little bit far away for me to be comfortable, especially when we're kind of that low in the range. Maybe 8th and 11th would get, just those 2 would be in that group for this month. When I'm looking at this, my 17th, I've got a 17th here and an 18th. And then there's a 28th. You have anybody between them? Right, so see, I'm kind of picking students who are close together with their percentiles, and then I can start grouping them from there. I'll again like to keep 4 or 5 kids, within my group as close as I can get them down here. The nice thing I like about using this report is you're going to see all of your students. So I can even start thinking about if I have students who might need some enrichment because they're really high, I can even create enrichment groups with this as well, right? I don't even like to refer to this as like intervention groups. I like to refer to them as your small groups because you can do intervention with them and you can do enrichment with these groups as well. So do you see how we got to this and kind of looked at this data? Does that make sense to you guys? All right, so let me give you about 5 minutes. I want you, and if you don't have the paper, printed out, I'll leave it up so you can just see what it looks like if you just want to kind of take some notes on, whatever paper you have. But let me walk you through getting to this again, okay? So I'm going to go back into my classroom. We'll just go from the classroom level. So we'll scroll down. In our related reports area, I can look at ISIP summary in English. I can look at ISIP summary in Spanish as well, okay? And I'll go into Spanish this time. So if I click into Spanish ISIP summary, it's the same thing. I've got my skills across the top overall. I see my bar graph right here, and I have all of my students listed down below, and there's blue plus signs for them. So functionally, it all works the same, okay? To start creating my small group, like the grouping document says, I'm going to click on whichever of these skills that I want to work on. So if I'm going to work on phonemic and phonological awareness right here, I would click on this bar. And then I'll go back to January. Yep. So if I'm looking at January, I can see here's their score, which I'm going to document, their name, and then their percentile rank as well. So we've got 3 things that I'm going to document from this report: name, score or ability index, right? And their percentile. And I'm looking at their percentile to create these groups. Okay, does that make sense? All right, let me give you about 3 or 4 minutes to at least click into your ISIP summary, click on the bar that you would like to do intervention for, and then just take a look at that percentile rank. And at the very least, I want you just to think about how I would group these students as I'm looking at them for small group intervention, okay? So I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I just want to kind of plant something else into your mind as you're creating these small groups. Our data is kind of an extra tool to help you create the small groups. I always like to recommend not using our data in a vacuum, okay? Think about what you know about your students, especially once you're, back in person with them, you're around them every day. You start to see what works and what doesn't with certain students. I was in a school in September, and we were creating small groups together, and I was using one of their classrooms. And we created a small group with some of the lower students and that child's teacher and the other teachers who knew that child, pretty quickly were like, actually, with that little girl, if we put her in a higher group, she will respond to being with that higher group of students, right? Fantastic. If you know that about a student, like, do that. I don't want you to keep them in a lower group just because of the numbers. If you know they'll respond, then please put them in with that group of students who they will respond positively with, because that's what's best for the student, okay? Another group we made, kind of, you heard a laugh from the whole crowd, and they were like, oh, you'd never put those 3 kids together because you'll just never get anything done with them. Great, I didn't know that. You do, so don't put them together, right? So just think about that as you're creating your small groups. What do I know about my student outside of the data, okay? All right, let's pause the recording. All right, we are back to recording. So looking at those first 2 steps of the grouping document, just give me a thumbs up digitally or physically. Do you think that grouping document will help you guys? Do you feel like it's pretty easy to follow? Cool. And you feel comfortable getting to where you get the data for them? Awesome. I hope that you're feeling like this will help you and not just give you something else to do, right? Like, I don't want that to be the case at all. I want you to think this is as simple as possible. All right. So let's go back to our grouping document real quick. So it says document grouping data in the table below from ISIP summary, right? So I've got ISIP summary here for my name, my score or my ability index, and my percentile. Then it says Lexile level is found on the classroom summary. So that's that last piece of data that we are going to get right here. On the English side, first grade and up receive Lexiles, okay? And Helica, I know you're more versed in Spanish than I am, so you'll have to help me out with this one. Spanish is 1 through 3 right now. Do we have 4 and 5? Yeah, we have 4 and 5, right, Angelica? For Spanish Lexiles? Hopefully she'll put it in chat for me. So I think we have up through 5th grade for Spanish.
Not yet. Not yet. That's coming.
That's coming. Thank you, Tina.
You're
I
welcome.
can remember what's what. It's changing all the time for me. So 1 through 5 in English and 1 through 3 in Spanish, you'll get a Lexile for that. So Lexile, are you guys pretty familiar with Lexile levels? Yep, okay. So I like to use the Lexile level to help find resources to use with my students, okay? So percentile to group them, Lexile to then help find resources. Remember, Lexile level is, we get the Lexile level from their reading comprehension subtest, okay? So that's all it's linked to is just that reading comprehension subtest score. So kind of one of the things I always like to think about with Lexile is if you see Lexile growing, and it drops off a cliff, that's a good, okay, I need to go look at what's going on with reading comprehension. Because if their Lexile fell off a cliff, their reading comprehension score probably also did the same thing, okay? So that's where Lexile is tied to. So we find that in classroom summary. So that's the report we're gonna go look at now is the classroom summary. And this is a really neat report, especially for my dual language schools where you have your students taking English and Spanish. This is where we get kind of the really more robust biliteracy reporting going on. So I'm going to go back into my classroom. From my classroom, I'm going to scroll down and I'll see right here in my related reports area for ISIP, for the English reading, we've got classroom summary. For Spanish, I've got classroom summary right here as well, okay? So I'm going to click into my classroom summary. The classroom summary is a snapshot of overall data for your whole class, okay? So I really like this report. Up here at the top, first you'll see this blue bar. You can run a version of this report that includes both reading products by selecting edit report and then checking include all reading products. So I'll show you that in just a second. Let me kind of walk you through what this is first, then we'll add the biliteracy piece into it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and X out of this. That'll always pop up for you to remind you every time you're on this report. So if you forget, just look at that blue bar that you get on this report. So this orange box shows me my students who are considered critical intervention students. Those are your students who are in the 10th percentile and below. You probably already have, like some names probably just popped into your head when I said that without even needing to look at their score, okay? Those are the kids you probably already know who they are before they even took an assessment, right? So they're gonna be highlighted on this report in that same orange color, okay? Then as you scroll down, you'll see your students will be separated by levels. So you can really quickly, you see those levels separated out and who belongs to each level. Here I can see where my critical intervention student is in level 1. And then as I go across, I'm going to get a snapshot of their overall data. So I can see their most recent, and this is always going to be their most recent data. So ISIP overall index, so it's just their ISIP overall score, their overall percentile, okay? Now, the reason I don't use this percentile for that grouping document is because this is overall. They can have a different overall percentile than they might have on some of those individual subtests, okay? Then I have their Lexile right here, okay? So here's a Lexile. I can see how much usage they have up to this point in the year in hours. And then I can see the current cycle of instruction everybody is working in, okay? So really quickly, I can tell where everyone is in the instruction. In February, I think in 2 weeks on the 8th, we're gonna have another meeting and we'll talk more about some of the instructional reporting at that point. Today, I just wanted to focus on more of the assessment side of things, right? So I'll show you where you can see what is in each cycle today, but we'll worry more about the reporting on that next time we meet. I'm here for Lexile. So now I can click on any of these column headers up here to sort by that field. So I can sort by Lexile. Now they're going to be in order from lowest Lexile to highest as we go down, right? When I go back to my grouping document, now I can just look for whoever I have on this document and record their Lexile right here. That sound pretty good? Okay. So I'll give you so you'll record their Lexile. Now we've created our group, right? We have them grouped by their ability. We know their Lexile, so now we can start finding resources at their level, okay? Pretty easy. So let's talk about biliteracy reporting on this report for those schools who are doing dual language and have students taking both English and Spanish. So that blue bar said you can click on edit report. I can go right here to where it says include all reading products. Then I can run this report. Okay. So now I'm going to have their Spanish assessment data and their English assessment data on the same report. So I can see here percentile rank. I can see there is English reading and there's Espanol. On their level, there's English reading and there's Espanol. And then I can see here's their English overall score, Lexile level, and usage. And then over here, I can see here's the same thing for Spanish. Okay. The reason they're kind of separated out for this is because when you look at percentile rank, the English and Spanish are going to be more related to each other, those pieces of data. Their level are going to be comparable to each other. When you get over here to things like score, those aren't comparable to each other because the English assessment and the Spanish assessment have different, they're on different, I can't think of the word right now, but they have different scoring, right? So the scores aren't going to directly relate to each other. Same thing with Lexile. Usage and cycle, those aren't really related to each other too much either, because cycle 5 in English doesn't have any bearing on what's in cycle 4, right? Whereas I can see here a little bit more data, okay? So as I scroll down, I can see things like, if they have a really high percentile in Spanish, but a really low percentile in English, I know they can read in their native language. Now we just need to transition them into reading, transfer those skills over to reading in English. Where if they have a really low percentile, like 4th percentile in Spanish, 10th percentile in Spanish, they probably aren't very strong readers in their native language. So we need to build that skill up and then worry about transferring it over to the English side, okay? So this can be a really powerful report for my dual language schools, and kind of seeing how those data from each of those different assessments compare to each other. Does that sound pretty useful for you guys? So another thing to keep in mind, so I can see here, let's see if we have any changes. So Christopher here, I can see in English, he's in level 2, but in Spanish, he's in level 3. So why is he grouped with level 2 right here? Well, I ran the English report where he's grouped in level 2. So if I run the English report, even when I add the Spanish data to it, it's going to keep them grouped based on English because that's the report I ran, okay? If I were to go back to my classroom, scroll down and run the classroom summary in Spanish, now I can see, where's level 3? Who was that? Christopher. I can see he's grouped with level 3 right here. And if I come up here and I add English to the Spanish report, Christopher will still be grouped in level, with his level 3 kids on Spanish, okay? So they will always be grouped by whichever language you ran the report in, okay? So just something to keep in mind. So does everybody feel pretty good about that report? I know that was kind of quick. Let me give you about 2 minutes or 3 minutes just to go in there and kind of look at your classroom summary. If you're one of the schools that is using dual language, if you want to come up here and edit and include all of your products, you can certainly do that. Give you some time to just at least get comfortable doing that so that, tomorrow or at the end of the week when you're doing this on your own, you kind of have an idea of where to go. So we'll do 3 minutes. The recording. All right, so do you guys feel pretty comfortable getting to classroom summary? Any questions over that report? I haven't seen any chat on that report specifically. So the main thing I'm doing there, I can see the snapshot of data. I can get the Lexile score from them. If I'm in a dual language school, I can use that to compare their English and Spanish data side by side, just to kind of see how that's going as well. So that's a really good report. I think it's a pretty quick report, but our grouping document, we're going to use that report here, classroom summary, to now record their Lexile, okay? All right, so before we continue on, let me address this question here, or this clarifying question that I got. about kind of the timing of the assessment during the month. So our assessment is always based on the calendar month, right? So the first of the month, there's going to be a new assessment waiting for your students, regardless of when they took their last assessment. Okay. So the first of the month, there's always, every month, a new assessment waiting for that student. Then the first day of the month, whatever the first time of the month the students log in and take their login, they're going to see that assessment. So if they log in on the first of the month, they're going to see the assessment. If the first time they log in for the month isn't until the 25th, right, then they're going to see the assessment on the 25th because that's the first day they logged in. Okay. So like if a student, if today was the first time a student ever logged into iStation, they took their assessment, their January assessment today. On February 1st, there's going to be a new assessment waiting for that student. If they log in on February 1st, they're going to take an assessment that day on February 1st. If it's the second or the third or whatever that might be, then they're going to take it that day of the calendar month, whenever the first time they log in. Okay. So we always talk about when you set up your testing calendar for iStation, just if you can do that first week of the month, let them log in, take their assessment that first week of the month, then that gives you the rest of the calendar month for them to work in the instruction, for your core instruction to take place, for any intervention to take place as well for the rest of the month. And then at the beginning of the next month, you have their next assessment at the beginning of the next month, and you've got a nice amount of time, right? And if you're always doing it at the beginning of the month, you've got a nice kind of consistent amount of time between each assessment to really see that good growth taking place. Now, I know we kind of started in, late December. Some people may not have started until, mid-January, end of January. I think if you did that for January and then you start the beginning of the month in February, I think that's fine. I wouldn't worry about that happening once. I just wouldn't want to get into that kind of, oh, we didn't do February till the end of the month, or we didn't do January till the end of the month, and we do February at the beginning of the month. And then in March, we forget about it, until the end of the month again. Like, I don't want to flip flop every month. I just want to set up that nice, routine of the first week of the month, we're doing our assessment. So two of our other trainers were principals, elementary school principals, and they just, the whole school, the first week of the month was called Show What You Know Week. And everyone on campus knew we need to get our assessment done this first week of the month, right? So students, teachers, administrators, everyone knew we were all on the same page. We all knew what was going on, and that's when we did it. I think it also helps from just a data standpoint as well. We take our whole class, we do the assessment. Now we're done in week one. I can spend week one analyzing my data, creating my intervention groups or my enrichment groups, and then I can spend the remainder of week one after that, plus all of week two providing that intervention, right? And then I've got week 3 of the month. If I want to do some extra progress monitoring for those students, I can do some on-demand type progress monitoring. Then I've got the rest of week 3 and 4 to kind of analyze data, any more intervention. And now we're at the beginning of the next month, and I've got their whole assessment coming back up, right? So you can kind of get that nice routine kicked in. I think this would be a good, semester to get kind of comfortable with that, dip your toes in that pool, if you will. And then if we continue next school year, we can just start next school year off just right out of the gates with a really good, we spent the spring kind of getting our routines down. Now we can just take off from the beginning. We don't even need to swim the practice laps they make you swim to go to the deep end, right? We can just hop right in. We're good at swimming, and now we're good to go. Okay. All right. And I'll be here all this year to help you guys out. Hopefully I'll be with you guys if we continue next year as well. So I'll always be there for you guys. So the assessment should take pretty much the same amount of time. It kind of depends. The first assessment's going to take a couple minutes longer probably because we're really trying to zero in on where they are. So it takes more questions to figure out where they are. After that, unless they have extra subtests being added on, it should take this pretty much the same amount of time each time. Okay. Remember, it's automatic. The assessment's automatic, right? So you don't have to assign it. You let them log in. They click on reading or they click on Espanol. They click on the iSip button from there, and it will just drop them right where they need to be. Okay. So you don't have to worry about turning anything on. Everything will happen behind the scenes. You've not taken your assessment yet. Here it is. You finished your assessment. Great. Now you can work in the instruction. Okay. Getting some more good questions about the assessment. We'll take care of these, no problem. So the way the assessment is timed, the questions have a timing element to them. So for example, letter knowledge, for example, on English, they have it'll ask them, click on the letter B, and they've got 5 seconds to choose the letter B. Vocabulary might be 20 seconds or 40 seconds or whatever it might be for the different subtests. So the questions have a timing element, but the assessment overall is not necessarily timed, right? So as they're taking their assessment, if they're not answering questions in the allotted time, it will count those wrong and move on to the next question, okay? If they log out in the middle of a subtest, right? So let's say they're second grade, they take vocabulary, they're working in spelling. In the middle of their spelling subtest, mom comes to pick them up for a dentist appointment and they have to leave in the middle of the assessment. No problem. They log out. When they come back, any subtests that they have completed are in the bank. They won't see that again. And they'll restart at the beginning of the subtest they were in when they logged out. Right? So like if I finished vocabulary, spelling, I'm in comprehension, I log out in comprehension, I won't see spelling and vocabulary again this month. I'll restart in comprehension and just work for the rest of it there. Okay. Does that sound pretty good? All right. If they need to like get up and use the bathroom or anything that's like relatively quick like that, there's a pause button in the assessment as well. So I would just, we always told our students when we tested kids, when I taught, if you have a question, like we would give them, like a thing to put on top of their monitor, to where they didn't have to have their hand up necessarily, but they had a way of signifying us. So that way it was like, you keep testing until I come over, right? Don't stop, because I don't want you like turned around waiting for me to come over there and the questions are just rotating in the background. And then when I got over there, I could pause it as the teacher. What do you need? I need to go to the bathroom. Cool. Go to the bathroom really quickly and come back. It will stay paused for 20 minutes, at which point in time it will just log them out. But if they're just going to the bathroom, that shouldn't take 20 minutes anyways. So pause it, they run to the bathroom, they come back, unpause, they just keep going from where they were, okay? So kind of a couple of different ways to address that type of thing, okay? All right, so let's get back to our grouping document. So we've got our students, we've got our score, we've got our percentile, we've got our Lexile score. Down below here, I've got a space to put the percentile range and the Lexile range for my group here as well. All right, so if I go down, step 3 is where we start finding resources. So there's kind of 2 ways to get into the resources part of finding this stuff, right? So the first kind of point of entry is to click into the priority report, and then we're gonna click into the iSip skill for this group, okay? So iSip skill is whatever we put right up here in this box, okay? So let's take a look at how that works. So I'm gonna minimize this. Let's go back into our classroom. I'm already in my classroom. Oops, I haven't done enough. So I'll go back into my classroom. I'm going to scroll, get off there. I'm going to scroll down and I will see right here in my related reports area, priority report, English and Spanish. They work the same, okay? So I'm going to click into priority report. So this report really, it shows you students who should be a priority for you when you are doing your intervention, okay? The reason I don't use it to create my groups is because I don't get that percentile for the skill on this report like I did from ISIP summary, okay? This report is gonna show you all of your students when they take their assessment, any students who are level 1 or level 2. So that's the yellow or the red. I'm sorry, that's the red or the yellow if I go in order. Level 1 or level 2, red or yellow. They're going to show up here on these ISIP areas, okay? When they work through the instruction, right? They're working in that instructional piece. If they are struggling in the instruction, that means they're working through a skill. They get a couple of reteaches on that skill. They're still struggling. We're going to then drop them here as well and say, hey, teacher, you've got 4 students who were in cycles 12 through 14 struggling with main idea. Can you now come help them with some face-to-face time because they're not getting it from what we're showing them, okay? So I like both of these areas. This, I use my ISIP summary for this, but my cycles of instruction, those are really good for those kind of more one-off type groups. I might look at this report weekly just to see these cycles down here. Oh, I've got 4 kids struggling with main idea. Let me grab them real quick and we can just talk about that and we can do some intervention on that specific skill, okay? But what we're here for right now is looking at the assessment. So we came here to look at vocabulary. So right here, I can see here is ISIP early reading vocabulary. I have 12 students, okay? I can scroll or I can just click on any of these links and auto scroll to that area. Before I do that, let me show you the legend. It's right up here. When I click on this, it's just gonna show you what the symbols you're gonna see on this report mean, okay? Triangles working down to X's, kind of, that's the order of struggle. And kind of a general rule of thumb, the more color you see, the more a student is struggling. So I'm gonna click on vocabulary. Here I have my students. I should see the kids who are in my group listed here, okay? And I can see the level they are for this skill for vocabulary. Here is my student who's my critical intervention kiddo. I can see their priority status. If I hover over that with my pointer, it will give me a pop-up that tells me what that means. I can see their overall level, the date they were listed, usage since this date, and then the cycle of instruction right here, okay? I already have my group created, so at this point, I don't really need to do anything with these kids, right? Because I've already seen their percentile, I have them in the group. What I'm here for is right here, okay? This beautiful little link that says recommended teacher-directed lesson, okay? So this is kind of that first place to go and find those printable resources to use with your students. These are all PDFs, so I can still upload them wherever I need to. I can use them remotely or I can use them in person. That's really what they were designed for, right? Because they were all made way before the crazy year that we're having this year, right? So I'm going to click here. Now, I know I've got some pre-K through 3 teachers here, and I've got some probably 4th through 6th grade, maybe 4th, 5th, or 6th grade teachers here. So I'm going to show you 2 different classes because you see 2 different things, whether you're an early reading teacher, which would be pre-K through 3, or if you are an advanced reading teacher, which would be 4 and up, okay? So this is a 2nd grade classroom, so all of my teachers K through 3, your view is going to be like what you see right here, okay? So once I click on that link, it drops me on this landing page. I'm going to click View File. That's going to open up that PDF. And I'm going to see right up here, first thing I want you to notice, this is 51 pages long, okay? So don't just hop in here and start printing things out willy-nilly, right? Because you'll be out of paper by like the end of February if everyone on campus starts doing that. Right, and I really don't want to do it if I'm at home because I don't want to use my paper either, okay? So just pay attention to how long this is. Don't just hop in here and start printing out. This first page just gives me a little bit of lesson design information. You can read it a couple times. You don't have to look at it every single time you run this once you're comfortable with what it says. But what you do want to stop right here on this second page, because this shows you kind of a breakdown of the lessons that you see. Now, these were written obviously before we had levels, so you're just going to see tier 1, 2, and 3. Ignore the words up there, just look at the colors, right? If I've got red kids, those are level 1. I can start with these red lessons over here. If I've got yellow kids, I can start with right here. Or if I've got, higher kids, I can start here. When I taught and we used these, we would usually just start at the bottom of whichever, column we wanted to start in and work our way up, then go to the bottom of the next column and kind of work our way up there. That's what we did. That was just kind of what was easy for us to do. You can pick and you can work through these however you want to. I would just first try to match, the group level up with the level of with the color up here. Notice how like lesson 6 right here goes across all of these. If vocabulary is kind of a class-wide issue, like we have a lot of kids struggling in vocabulary, that could be something that I add to my daily vocabulary teaching that we work on kind of every day with those kids, right? So that can kind of be used across the board with them. So if, I'm just going to scroll to lesson 1, but basically I would just go down and find whichever lesson I wanted to work on. Figure out which pages it covers, and then just print just those pages off, okay? Now, if eventually you'll probably use all these, you could really just go in there and print off the whole thing, and then you would have like a black line master, right? And then you can just, I'm using this lesson this week. Next week, I'm going to use lesson 4, whatever it might be. And then you'll just already have those there. So that's kind of up to you guys how you want to do that. I don't know what your paper budgets are or anything like that. So I'll let you guys figure that out. But okay, so let's talk about our lessons. I love our printable lessons. I did a training with the school. One of the teachers there, her niece was going to college to be a teacher, right? She's going to get an education degree and become a teacher. So she would go visit her aunt, the woman in the training, a couple times a week. And the teacher would print off these lessons and hand her a packet of lessons and give her a group of kids, and she would go off and work with those kids kind of in that small group setting. So like super lucky as a teacher to have that situation going on. But she said that her class grew the most on all of their iStation scores, and that was the only thing that she was doing different than the rest of the school, right? As she had her niece using these lessons with those groups of students. Okay, so go out and find someone in college to come in and do that for you a couple times a week, and I think you'll be good to go, right? But I think what it speaks to is just how powerful these lessons can be, because they're pretty awesome, right? They're all evidence-based lessons. They're fully scripted, right? So everything you see in bold is the teacher dialogue. And then everything you need to complete the lesson that's printable will be included in the document. If you need, vocabulary cards, picture cards, prefix cards, whatever it might be that's printable for the lesson, it's going to be included in that document, right? So they're really self-contained lessons. In October of 2019, I went on a training and I'm going to brag a little bit. I got to go to American Samoa to do a training, which is about halfway between Hawaii and New Zealand. It's pretty amazing. But the point of the story is, when I talked to their DOE, they were like, can you show our teachers how to use the printable lessons? I was like, all right, so do you mean like talk about them with the teachers and show them where they are and show them, kind of how to get to them and some strategies to use them? And she said, actually, we want you to use them to teach lessons to a class of students, right, at multiple schools, and the teachers can come and watch you teach this class of students how to use these lessons, right? And at that, I'm thinking, I haven't taught in a classroom in 6 years. Like, I was legit nervous about, like, have I lost it? Like, how rusty am I going to be? So on the trip over, I printed these off, and I just, like, the first probably day, I think I did 2 schools a day. The first day I read the script like almost word for word just to get comfortable back in that environment. And then once I got comfortable with it, all right, I know kind of how I want to teach these now. I don't need the script anymore. So I can kind of go off script and use the lessons however I'm comfortable doing it, with the students, which, just gives you a little bit more options to to respond to different questions and things like that. So it helped me a lot, just getting me comfortable back in that mode of teaching a group of students again. So again, I think these are super powerful lessons. So they're all going to be here for you to use, right? So that's what my K-3 teachers are going to see. So let me show you what the older grade levels are going to see. All right, so I'm going to change classrooms into a 4th grade classroom right here. So for my 4th and 5th grade teachers, or anyone above 4th grade, it's going to look a little bit different for you for the lessons. So again, I'm still going to go into priority report. That's not going to change. I'm going to click into whatever skill I have on my grouping document. So in this case, I had vocabulary. So here's my vocabulary. I'm still going to click on the same link that I had earlier. But the difference is now, instead of having one document with a bunch of lessons in it, I'm going to have a menu of lessons that I can choose from. Okay. So again, they're still going to say tiers, but just remember tier 3 is your level 1s, tier 2s are your level 2s, and then tier 1 down here would cover your level 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now I've got a menu of lessons I can choose from. These little green bubbles show you the Lexile level for that lesson. If I go back to my grouping document, down here we have a Lexile range. Okay. That Lexile range, if I find a lesson within that Lexile range here, I can use that. Okay. And I think that's a great lesson to use. Now, I might have my group Lexile range maybe way below anything we have here. Okay. If that's the case, or if I'm an early reading teacher and I click on vocabulary, there's 5 or 6 lessons to use there. I've used them all already, or I just want to find something different. Now I can go here to my home tab. And now we're going to go into, let me go back to my grouping document. Boom. It says click in the priority report, then the ISIP skill for the group to find resources. Use the link for recommended teacher-directed lessons, which is what we did, right? And I probably won't give you time on this one because we're getting close to time here, and I've got one more report to show you. So that'll be part of your homework. Then it says printable resources can also be found in the teacher resources link on the home tab, the big purple box. Love the big purple box. Go out to my home tab. I have the big purple box right here that says teacher resources. Okay, click on that. I can choose up here between English reading and Spanish reading. Okay, between those two, we've got probably well over 2,500 printable resources available to you. We've got printable books, we've got lessons, we've got graphic organizers, we've got classroom decorations, oral reading fluency passages, we've got running records, we've got all sorts of fun stuff available to you here, okay? Now, I'm gonna go back here. So I can search by text here. I don't use that very often. We cover grades pre-K through 8 on the English side, pre-K through 5 on the Spanish side, right? So if I typed in vocabulary, I'm gonna get hundreds of resources, okay? I like to use the search wizard right here because this allows me to pre-filter as I go. So I click on Launch Search Wizard. I'm gonna find by skill because we're coming from the ISIP summary, or the ISIP summary report where we use a skill. My skill was vocabulary. You've got all the different skills right here that you're going to use. So there's vocabulary. Now we get to choose the stages of reading. Okay. I've got the kind of a general grade level to think about with that stage of reading, but right here, the second column, Lexile level. Now I can match my stages, the Lexile range of these stages of reading to the Lexile range of my group, okay? So now I can really narrow down those resources to match my students' ability level. So maybe I've got some beginning readers, or if I'm second grade, I've probably got some early readers, right? So I can choose more than one if I need to, right? If I have a range that straddles two of these, I can use two if I want to. Use selected stages. Now, what do I want to find? Well, I want to find a lesson, maybe a book we can print off and they can take home and read to, their folks or grandparents or brother and sister or, their dog or whoever that might be, right, at home that they like to read to. My brother posted a picture of my nephew, one of my nephews at Christmas one year, like reading books to his aunt and uncle's like Doberman pinchers. And it's like this little, I think 7-year-old kid at the time with these two huge dogs, like laying beside him on the bed as he's reading to them, right? So just fun stuff like that. So now I can see here are resources that only apply to these filters that we put in place, okay? So again, here I can see some books, I can see some different lessons right here, and here's some of the beginner stages there. Where you see just the numbers, you don't necessarily have to go in any special order. You can click into it. You can see what it's going to be about right here. You can view the file. Again, these are going to be just like the lessons we saw earlier, where they're fully scripted. Everything you need will be included in that document, right? So if you need like sentence strips, there's picture cards to go with them, right? So you've got everything you need that's printable to work on with those students, okay? So these are really great areas. Normally I'd give you some time to play in there. I'm going to give you a homework assignment and I'm going to ask you about it. So hopefully you're all back on February 8th because I'm going to make you do a book report on one lesson. That's all we're going to do is just book reports on a lesson. No, I'm kidding. But I'll ask you to give me a thumbs up if you looked at them. So it's kind of a pass-fail type thing, right? So I think part of your homework is going to be just hop into that big purple box and you can explore the search wizard. You can explore by text however you want to do that. You're welcome to do that. So I want you to explore that. The lessons are great. I think you're going to find a lot of cool stuff in there. You can search for graphic organizers. A lot of fun things to search for. So please do that. We've got about 8 minutes left. I've got one more report to show you, and then we'll get Aaron involved and we can figure out sign-in sheets to make sure you guys are all getting your credit for this, and we will then be done. So let's do one more report. All right, so classroom, we're gonna go, remember I told you what, all of the reports we're gonna look at today are where? In the classroom, okay? So we're gonna go back to our classroom. Get off there, blue bar. We go back into my classroom. This time though, it's not down here. This time we're gonna click into a student name, okay? So we are going to look at, it's called the student summary handout. This is going to be a good report you can share with parents. You can use it even with students to have like student conferences and kind of look at some goal setting type stuff, which we'll talk more about goal setting on our February 8th call as well. So I'm going to click into Brianna here. So once I'm in Brianna's page, there's some data here. You have your different tabs, if for English and Spanish here. I like to get this information kind of more on the classroom level reports, so I don't really ever use this page much more than finding the reports down here. So down to the right, you'll see the related reports area. Here is student summary handout for English, and here it is for Spanish. Okay, work the same way. So I'm going to click in the student summary handout. In fact, let me go back to someone different. Sorry, I forgot. I wanted to make sure something was visible on there. Let me go to second grade again. Let me see what I need to look at real quick. All right, so we've got, hold on, sorry. I need to go back to January because I want to make sure we see a student in second grade who has the lower, let's go to January, run that report. So we've got, okay, so Yuri. So let's go back into our classroom. So we'll scroll down and find Sayuri right here. So I'm going to click on her name. Then here I'm going to go and click into student summary handout. And this is going to be a good report. It's like kind of that student's summary of how they're doing on everything with iStation. So at the very top, I can see, like if you need to send this home to parents, right, you can, this example report with descriptions would be a great PDF to send home because it kind of describes what each of the different sections means. So that's there for you at the top. Right here, I've got, here's her name. I've got a program overview, the cycle she's in, last time she logged in. Here's her Lexile score, how much usage she has. I can see her overall level and her text fluency level. If I scroll down, I've got overall reading. I've got a growth chart for each of the different subtests the student has taken, okay? So where you see the color and the graph, that's where they took that on grade level assessment, right? So these are those second grade subtests for her. And where you see right here, there's no color in the background of the chart. That is where they went down and took a first grade assessment, or they took a subtest they're not normed for. Okay, so now I can click into any of these, right? So if I wanted to look at like vocabulary, I can click on the vocabulary subtest. That takes me to that student's individual skill growth details. So I can see over time how she's growing. Down below, I can see by month how she's doing. If I scroll back up, right up here, I've got tabs. I can click into any of her subtests from here. So if I go to phonemic awareness, I can see here are her scores. Each of these little yellow dots is a score for that subtest. But each of these little dashed lines, so like here is end of grade level 2 cut score, end of grade level 3, level 4, level 5. So while I don't get a level for her, I can see how that student compares to end of year first grade, okay? So I can see like this child would have been in level 1 in first grade, right? So that's, she's probably struggling, okay? So this is a really good report for that. I'm going to go back out to it. At the very bottom down here, you will see there 4 or 5, or usually it's 4 or 5, excuse me, most recent priority alerts. I generally don't like to have this on here, especially if I'm showing this to parents. I think it can raise more questions than it really answers. So I can scroll up here again, uncheck this box, and now those go away. Okay, so now I can print this right up here. And now if I have a parent coming in for a conference, we can just take a look at what their growth looks like. Okay. Now, if I'm just one-on-one with parents, I could pull this up on my computer, right? And we could talk about it that way. I can click into things. At some point, you may just get to where you're sending it home, so I can print it off right there. So if I'm in this and I'm looking at this report, I say, you know, I need this for everybody. I've got parent-teacher conferences coming up next week. I just need to print this report out for my whole class, okay? And I don't want to go like student by student. That's going to take forever. So what you can do is once you're in one, go up here to edit report. One really nice thing about this is I can change the language on the report from English to Spanish. So like if I have a student who's taking both English and Spanish assessments, right? I can, and they have parents at home who they are Spanish speaking, you know, predominantly Spanish speaking at home. I feel that if I give them this all in English, it's going to be hard for them to really understand it. I can change that to Spanish so they can at least read what it all says, right? So I've got that option as well. I go to targeted users. I can select all. And now I've selected all of the students in my class, run report. And now I'm going to run this report for every student in my class. It's just going to be one big long report. I can scroll down, right? So there's Amaya, there's Anna, there's Christopher, all the way down. This is going to show up again, the priority alerts. So I'd still need to come up here and uncheck this box if I want to remove those. Now they're gone. And now when I print this report, it's going to put a page break above every child's name. So no one will share a sheet of paper, okay? And sorry, I was printing something out in black and white earlier. So there we go. And come on, preview, boom, in color, okay? So I can print this out in color. Every child's gonna get their own report. It's not gonna, no one's gonna share anything. Some kids may get 2 pages. Some kids may not, they may only get 1. So just be careful, make sure your printer is set to print on one side only. That way you don't get anyone sharing anything back to front. So now I can print it out for my whole class. When their parents come in for a parent-teacher conference, boom, I'm good to go. I've got it right there. We can talk about it in person or I can send it home, okay? The first time I probably want to talk to parents more in person about this. I don't like doing it as a backpack at first, just because they don't know what they're looking at and it just might be confusing, right? If you've never seen this. Now, if you're remote and you don't have a choice, you can send it home and maybe try to set up a Zoom call, right, with the parents, and you can go through it that way if you want to. But the first time, for sure, I really like to do this in person so we can just talk about what we see. Don't forget this example report with descriptions is here as well. That could be something you print out. Might be nice to just print out so you even have kind of a cheat sheet of what this thing means, okay? All right, that's a lot. We've covered a lot today. It's 6:16. Sorry I didn't get you out early. I was trying to get people out early, but sometimes you got to go all the way through everything. So is everybody feeling pretty good? Hopefully pretty good with what we talked about today? Is your brain full? Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully not too full. I hope I didn't like make you forget something that was important by filling your brain up with the new stuff. Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for your time. We're going to talk again on February 8th, I think same time. So if any questions you have between now and then, save them up. You're welcome to ask at that point. We can spend some time just answering questions if you guys have them. If you have questions, is there, Aaron, do you guys have like a way for them to submit questions that you guys can forward to me? How do you want to handle
We have a couple of ways. We have an iStation Google Classroom for our teachers. So questions can either be posted in the iStation Google Classroom, or they can email me and then I can
forward those
collect
over?
those and then send them on to you.
Excellent. So yeah, if you want to submit questions either of those 2 ways, and they can get filtered to me and I'll get back, answers back to you guys so that we make sure you guys are feeling comfortable with every step of the way. I don't want you to ever feel like you're not being heard. And I want to make sure that any questions you have, regardless of how silly you may think they are, I want you to ask them, because there may be a bunch of people with the same question. And if we don't know that, we can't answer it. So please, 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 please don't be shy to ask any question you have. No, I will happily answer them all. So thank you guys for your time. I did see that Aaron put the link in the chat. So hopefully everybody got a chance to get your time sheets signed up. Thank you to my team, to Tina and Helika, Nettie, Brian. I didn't see if anyone else joined on, but thank you guys so much for helping out. You guys were huge. I didn't realize that the crowd would be this big. So, and thank you for doing it last minute. So thank you guys so much for your time. I'll keep it open. If we have any questions, you're welcome to stay on and ask any questions you have. If you don't have any questions, I will turn you guys over to Erin, and she can tell you what she needs to tell you, or tell you that you guys are welcome to enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yep. Just thank you everybody for being here. I was, excuse me, really just thrilled with the reports that you were able to share with everyone, and the resources that are available in iStation are just amazing. So I was just thrilled to see all the different ways that we can access supports for our kids. So thanks for that, Michael.
You're very welcome. I enjoy it. So yeah, so thank you guys so much. You are free from me, so have a great evening. Again, if you want, I'll stay on for a little bit longer. If you want to stay on and ask any questions, you're welcome to, and we'll get you taken care of. So a good question about the instruction. So the way the instruction works, there's little save points along the way. And as they work through the lesson, they will pass those save points. So if they have to log out in the middle of a lesson, they'll just restart at the most recent save point they passed and then just continue working from there. So they'll see a little bit of repeat, but it shouldn't be too much. And then they'll just keep on working from there. So very much like the video games they play at home, right? As you work through those things, there's those little save points that pop up. Same thing. Yes, so it should be, is there an example report descriptions available in Spanish? So if I go into a Spanish student summary handout, there should be the Spanish version on that. Let me check and make sure. Student summary handout. Let's make sure. Example report with descriptions. And no, that is in English because I can read it. Let me find out. We should have one. I don't know why we don't. I'm surprised that's not one there. Let me ask about that, and I will, if I get it, I will send it over to Erin so that she can filter that out to all of you guys.
Do you have to change the language of the report first before you?
Oh, do you? Thank you, Brian.
I don't know. Give it a shot. We'll see what
Let's
happens.
try that. Let's try changing it to Spanish. Run report.
I gotta have one thing that I'm good
Ah,
at.
there we go.
Oh,
As you can see, I haven't done this part of it a whole lot. Awesome. So go into edit report. I'll just download this and send this to Erin so that you don't have to remember to do extra steps to get there. So I'll just download this and there we go. And I'll send both of those to Erin. She can drop those in the Google Classroom. Thank you, Brian. And she can drop those in the Google Classroom for you guys. That way you don't have to remember extra steps to get there. And then I'm going to suggest that they put both English and Spanish links on there. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for showing the Spanish. I was the one who's asking about that. But
Okay.
also I have another question.
Yes.
I wanted to try the oral reading fluency for the
Mhm.
students.
Yes.
I know there was Aaron, I was emailing Aaron because there was some issue with the link
Mhm.
with the Clever because it
Yep.
would, the kids had to put in a username and password. But I think Aaron said that they got that fixed.
Yeah.
Should
So
be
that would
sorted out.
work. Yeah. So do I need to assign it or how does that part work?
So just tell
Do
them
they
to
just
click
click
on
on
the oral.
The oral reading fluency?
Yeah, so I'm gonna log in real quick. Let me log into the app real quick from my end just so I can kind of show you what that looks like. I'm just using a demo student from one of my teammates. So
Mike,
when the
this
students
is
log
Nettie.
in,
This is Nettie. Do you want me to tell her a little bit
yeah,
about what it is when you take that Spanish oral reading? You're going to get the 3 passages in Spanish, but it's not automatically giving you the scores. You're going to have to manually score. But let me tell you, it is so easy. You can get them done in no time. Hey, I taught it, in a bilingual classroom, and I had to do these running records. Well, they were called back then. And, you'd have this way, your whole class, well, since you're still working virtually, you can have the kids taking the test individually. Again, you're going to have to tell parents to have a controlled environment because they are going to be reading, but you can listen to them and you can do the test, the scoring in about 10 minutes.
Is that the same for English? Because we actually aren't a dual language, so we wouldn't use
Well,
but
yeah. So English.
Want to do it? That just I can keep going on and on.
I got it. So
no, that's awesome.
on English side, so when they log in, they'll click into reading.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to assign it. You just have to tell them where to go. So then they go to the little 3 dots down here.
Okay.
And then they'll just click into ORF right here.
Okay.
for
And how
reading
many
fluency.
times can they take that in 1 month?
So they can do it once a month. So it works just like the regular assessment. At the beginning of the month, there's a new one waiting for them. So they
Okay.
click into oral reading fluency. And what that's going to do is open up a website for them to go to, and it should log them in automatically. It should. So if I click on this, for example, yes, I want to go. It just tells me that's going to launch it in a web browser. I want to go there. It'll log me out of there, but it's going to open this up. It should log you in, and then it should just drop you right in there.
Okay, because I had a kid share their screen with
Mhm.
me, and we did that, and it
It
kept
didn't work
saying
out
log
well.
in with your username and password. I was like,
It
But
shouldn't do
I know
that.
that's
If it keeps doing it, let us know and we'll figure out why it might be doing that, but it shouldn't do that. I've got
yeah,
another
because
district that
Aaron
uses
said the
Clever as
tech.
well, and
Yeah,
they've
Aaron
never
said
had
the
issues
tech and
with
you
it.
guys worked on that. So I was just curious how that worked because I wanted to
Yep.
try it and
Yeah.
with the
So
kids.
yeah.
And I like this version way better than the whatever the classic version because that was the original version you guys showed us.
Mhm.
Because there was just too many buttons for the kids and it didn't tell them. I don't think it told them clearly when the assessment was done because
Yeah,
I
it was a
had
little,
kids
yeah,
keep
that worked a
going
little bit
and going,
differently.
and I was like, sweetie, you're done. It says you're done on my side. Oh,
Mhm.
but the other one, this one actually like gives them stars
Yes, you're done
or
now.
something.
Now
It
go
said,
click here. Yeah.
yeah, well, it said, they said something about gave them some stars. Like it said, you got
Mhm.
3 stars or something. I don't
Yep.
know what exactly
Yeah.
it said.
Yep.
Okay, so I like this version better.
We'll talk some more about some goal setting next time, but one of the other neat things is when they're in here, they can click up here and they can actually see like their scores. Here's their goal for next month. I can
Oh.
go in and see like goals for the whole year. As a student, they can kind of see a lot of their data.
Are
This
their
month,
goals?
do
Do
what?
are these goals set already? Like, are they
Yeah.
preset? This is what.
So
a
we'll
third
talk
grader-
about these goals on the next one. So when they took their first assessment back in August or whenever their first assessment is,
Mhm.
right, their goals are set based on that first assessment score. And then these goals will be set going forward. As a teacher, you're able to go into the classroom and adjust the goals however you want to. We kind of
Oh.
give you a baseline. These goals will keep them basically at their same percentile level all year. If you're on grade level or above, that's great. If you're 20th percentile, I need you to grow faster than just, I don't want you maintaining 20th percentile all year. So for that student, I'm going to go in and adjust goals to what I think they can achieve. Like, kind of shoot for the star or shoot for the moon, at least at the worst case, land among the stars, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that on the next one on the 8th. We'll get more into that because that's a longer conversation than we probably want to do now. But
Well, that's
you,
good.
you can
Thank
change those goals in the website, and then the updated goals will be reflected here as well
Okay. Thank you
for
so
the
much.
students. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool things about this here. Then as a teacher, so on the English side, first grade through third grade will be auto scored. So they'll read their 3 passages. It may take a few minutes. It's not going to show up as quickly as like their ISIP will. It may take a few minutes to show up. But you'll get a score, a words correct per minute, and an accuracy rate score automatically, English 1 through 3. Okay. English 4 through 5, and then all of the Spanish 1 through 5, those right now have to be manually scored. Those are new this year. So what we have to do is collect a bunch of data from students reading it in the real world. Then we use that data to then calibrate the system, the AI system, to make sure it's scoring them accurately. I talked to the product manager. He's mentioned this spring. 4 and 5 English for sure should be this spring. And I'd be willing to bet Spanish won't be very far behind. It just kind of depends on how many kids are reading it, right? And I know 4th and 5th grade, he said, is easier because they're just kind of better readers and they sound more accurate, things like that. So it's a little bit quicker on that process. But it is a high priority to get auto scoring for everyone, so it will be done as quickly as they can get it done. And then you would just go into your classroom. Let's see here. Where is that classroom? There we go. So you just go into your classroom here. Over here, you'll see oral reading fluency. Click there, and then that will show you, let's see here. That'll just show you here like the title of the passage. So this one's good. It has some Spanish passages being read. Here's the score. I can see if it's been scored, it'll say who scored it. If it was auto scored, you would just see auto score in there. I can view details. And I'm going to see like all the passages. The auto scoring will not mark any of the words like you see here that has to be manually scored. You can view this, edit the score. And this is where you would go in. Here's the recording to listen to, right? As I listen to the recording, I can click on all of these. One click is an error, 2 clicks would be a self-correct. I can do that as we go. And then, save the score from there. But auto score, you'll get words correct per minute and accuracy rate just fine. Okay. And let me do this. Let's go to the iStation Users Guide. ORF. So I'm going to drop this article, a link to this article in the chat so you guys can see it. But it has over here, you'll see there's manual scoring. So it'll just have kind of a step-by-step guide for the manual scoring. They just uploaded they just changed over the look of how this looks. So these will be updated probably pretty quickly, but there's a slight difference in how things look, but functionally should work the same. So let me drop this link. Boom. There we go. And boom. There we go. All right. Good question, Rebecca. What can families see on the parent portal? So let me show you what parent portal looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and log out from my account. And we're going to use Rosie again. rosiec.z.training. And then, good thing that wasn't my bank account number, right? I just said out loud. Rosie. Oh, okay, let's do. There we go. So when the parent portal, when the parents log in, they log into the website with the student's username and password. To get here, I think you have to actually send home a login card for them. They can't go through Clever to get here. So they can see usage information just like you see in the classroom page. They can see usage information here, like by month, how much time they've used either of the products by month. You can see their cycle they're currently working in, their current Lexile measure. I can go to resources for either of those. And then if I go to reports, it's basically going to be the student summary handout in a growth report. So like here's ISIP reading. So they're going to be able to see the same thing on student summary handout that you guys see on your end. And then the growth report is going to be just like when you click on any of those graphs from the student summary handout. And then they can also see, they can go back home. So they're in cycle 11. I can go to resources from here. And I'm going to see kind of, they're more parent friendly. It's going to be a little bit different than what you guys see. You guys will see all these lessons in your teacher resources area. But theirs are going to be kind of in more parent friendly language. But so here is, come on, internet. There we go. So like I can see we're in cycle 11 already because that's where the student is currently working. And I've got a few lessons there, and they can even go through and find different resources, clicking into the different cycles here if they want to as well. So that's just kind of a quick look, and there's Spanish here as well. You can change the language on this up here to Spanish for just whatever's on the screen, and back to English if you need to. So does that help answer that? Does that look good? So it's more or less the student summary handout is really what they see.
Yeah, that actually being that we're distance, that would probably be more helpful to families. I actually already found how to get the parent letter.
Okay, yeah.
And got it all split between each student. So I just,
Awesome.
I didn't want to send it before I knew what I was sending.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, so basically data-wise, it's the student summary handout.
I would prefer my families to see this minute by month situation here, because I need all the help I can get with getting kids to actually log on.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. And then they can see usage here, so they can even see, hey, you've only worked 13 minutes so far this month. What's going on? I know you're supposed to have more time than that. So, it'd be a very good report for them to be able to look at.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Everybody else feeling pretty good? We got the crowd narrowed down a little bit. Good ratio here. So if you have any questions, let me know. All right. No new questions. Going once, going twice.
I just want to
Oh,
clarify
yes.
the ORF that we just talked about is different from the activity
Excellent.
that looks like days. I just want to clarify they're different. Okay. Okay, good. Because I know we in our building we're talking about that closed activity where it looks like days and it's timed, but we wanted to know more about ORF and I learned about it. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yep. Awesome.
Well, I've been super impressed, Michael, by iStation. It's like everything that you think, okay, I wonder if they have this, or I wish, the things that you always think, I wish somebody would develop this.
Mhm.
It's been embedded within iStation. So
Oh, that's good to hear.
yeah.
That's good to hear. Someone's asking about the attendance sheet, so I don't know if we want to. I know if you scroll up, you'll probably find it, but it may be pretty far up. I don't know how many questions we've had since then. So maybe we can drop a link in there for them. All right. Did I get dropped in there at all? Can we drop their sign-in sheet in there one more time, Aaron? Like there was a question about it. Just make sure. There we go. All right.
Oh, wrong one.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. No, that's the one. Yeah, that's my how-to guide.
I had already put that in Google Classroom.
Oh, awesome.
So that's why I had that
Yep.
copy.
Most recent thing on your clipboard.
Here we go. I thought they were asking about an attendance sheet report within iStation. So
Oh, no,
I'm
I
totally
wish.
spaced out
No worries.
on our attendance.
All right, there we go. Well, thank you guys again for your time. I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna go get some food, put in my belly. So,
All right. We appreciate your time.
yeah, you're very welcome. You guys have a wonderful afternoon. And Aaron, I'll send over the link to the recording in the morning. when it gets
Okay.
processed.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye-bye.